It is a very rare thing to have 22 EU commissioners in one country. The India-EU conversations that took place between Prime Minister Modi and the entire EU delegation, which is led by Ursula von der Leyen, is a very important one. An important announcement also made, but to discuss all this and more, I'm being joined by none other than the EU Trade Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. The announcement has been made for an FTA as early as this year. Is that feasible? There have been so many challenges. What are those challenges? How will you align trade interests with India's concerns regarding protecting Indian MSMEs?
First and foremost, thank you very much for having me. It's indeed a pleasure, and I know that our President, Ursula von der Leyen, and all my colleagues are very happy to be here. For many of them, it's for the first time, like for me, and we are already in love with your country, so I'm sure we'll be coming back a lot. And I am already in quite intense contact with my counterparts. We became friends with Minister Piyush Goyal. He came to see me for a weekend to Brussels, but it was much more rainy than here, and now we are all here with the whole college. So indeed, as you said, the task to complete our FTA negotiations before the end of the year is very challenging, because I know that our predecessor has been trying to do it already for quite some time. But I think that there is clear political goal. It's a very important objective. And I think what will be driving us to achieve this goal is this new geopolitical situation, how the world is becoming fragmenting, how some tries to erect the barriers, and we are trying to lower them. And we already now, with the relationship as we have it today, our biggest trading partner for India. The trade is 120 billion, more than 8 million citizens of India are having jobs thanks to this good cooperation. And I'm absolutely convinced that if we manage to have good FTA, the trade will grow, and investments from European Union will also grow massively. So I believe that this would be the driving factors, and we are starting actually tomorrow morning. We are flying together with the minister to Mumbai with our trade teams, and we'll continue our conversation.
So you're confident that there'll be an FTA by the end of the year?
I think that's our task. So otherwise our bosses, Prime Minister Modi and Ursula von der Leyen, my boss, will not be happy. I know it will not be easy, so we'll be working very hard. I mean, maybe on top of the FTA, I also spoke with Madam Finance Minister. Because she's very much interested in having the agreement on protection of investments, which I think will be very much welcome also by our business community. We just met them this afternoon. But also the agreement on protection of geographical indications, so we can protect the unique products you have in India, unique products we have in Europe, so they can generate also more income, and you can trade with them safely.
You've taken me right into my second question on protectionism. That has been a part of the conversation. We've heard US President Donald Trump criticize India a lot on being protectionist, but there are various aspects as to why India has certain tariffs, certain protections, and certain barriers. In such a scenario, how is the EU looking at tariffs? Is that a concern for EU as much as it is for many other countries, including the United States of America? High tariffs.
We didn't come to criticize. We understand that India goes through very fast development, and we can only congratulate the Prime Minister Modi of alleviating the millions and millions of Indians out of property. So we have lots of understanding for this approach. But we're also convinced the lower the tariff, bigger the trade, and better it would be for both European Union and India. So we are ready to have also very specific discussions how to achieve that. I think that under this, let's say, political decision which was made today, that we should do our utmost to have the FTA by the end of the year, my suggestion to my friend Minister Goyal is, let's put everything on the table. Tell me honestly what you could do. I will honestly tell you what we can accept, because what I think in the end we both need is something what I would describe as a commercially viable agreement. The agreement which will not be the very nice piece of paper, but which would really help our businesses to be more active here, which will help us to employ more people in India, in European Union, create more jobs, and also drive up the investments. And I think we will have, very honestly, to judge how can we achieve that, but we have to be very honest with each other, respect each other's sensitivities, and this is what we'll definitely try to do.
Will it also encourage mobility? That is a concern with a lot of European countries now looking inwards, a lot of far-right governments coming in. Would mobility be a part of the conversation?
I think this, we had very good discussion between the delegations. This afternoon we had our bilaterals with our counterparts, and Prime Minister met with the President of the European Union, and clearly the skills and the management of talent was one of the key issues, and especially in Europe we have quite important skills gap if it comes to IT sector, and I think that definitely we can discuss it, how to have the legal pathways into the EU, how can we increase the exchange programs between university, between our youth, and we'll be very happy to discuss it also with our member states, because if it comes to this type of the cooperation, of course they play very, very important role. So I think that once we have a good FTA, when we create this momentum, we would consolidate the trust between us, I would say, in this field. I think there is a lot of things we can discuss, and I believe also find a good solutions for both of India and European Union, because I think in this world we actually need each other much more than before. Maybe as a piece of information, I can tell you that since the end of the last year, especially with, I think it's very much linked with the developments in United States of America, there is enormous interest in accelerating the work on the free trade agreements with the European Union. We concluded our negotiations with Mercosur, meaning Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay, with Mexico, with Switzerland. Now we are talking to the Gulf countries, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. So I think that this just indicates that, and we very much appreciate that they see us as a reliable, predictable partner. We are the biggest trading bloc on this planet. So it just shows that there is a huge potential for this cooperation, and I believe that such two important partners like the European Union and India, which would actually work for 2 billion people, I think it's really worth doing everything to achieve a good result.
Okay. Mr. Šefčovič, sir, the fact that today, while we are speaking about moving forward, all eyes are on one very important aspect, and that is, in this conflict-ridden era and world, how is the world going to look at and solve the Russia-Ukraine conflict of war? All eyes on the Zelensky-Trump meet in Washington, D.C., but the bigger question over here is about the deals that are being now looked into with regards to rare earth minerals. How is Europe looking at it? Is everybody scrambling for the rare earth resources in Ukraine, and has everyone forgotten that there is a war to win?
I think we definitely don't, because European Union is in essence peace project. The European Union was created to make sure that we would never have war in Europe. And now we have two very serious military conflicts at our borders, one in Ukraine, another one in Gaza. And that was something which I, to be honest, didn't expect at all just a few years ago. So for us, the peace is extremely important, and therefore we are supporting Ukraine with everything we have. We actually contributed much more than anybody else, financially, but also in military equipment. And what is important for us is that we have just and lasting peace. So if President Trump would contribute to the cessation of violence, and if the US administration would work with us, and especially with Ukraine, because that will be their peace to agree upon, we will do our utmost to make sure that that peace will be durable, that we will not have the military conflict a few months or few years later, because we as a major economy are paying enormous price by having that conflict at our doorstep. So I think that we have simply to look at the reality of the current situation and do collectively our utmost to make sure that the peace is fair, is just, and is lasting.
But at this point in time, it seems like the idea of there are no free lunches really is resounding. Trump is looking at the minerals, so is Europe. Are you also going to look at how you can best look at optimizing and exploiting the resources in Ukraine? And what do you make of the $500 million resources deal between US and Ukraine?
I have to say that if it comes to the peace in Ukraine, we are definitely not transactional. I mean, you know, I'm from the neighboring country, from Slovakia, and I can tell you that until today, I remember vividly to see literally the millions. At one point, it was more than 10 million Ukrainian refugees, especially the women and children, and how all the neighboring countries, including Slovakia, have been opening their homes, the hospitals, the schools, providing the jobs for these people, and how these people been thankful. So from our side, it's just a pure solidarity. We are not looking for any transactional advantages. And as a coincidence, I remember how we've been dealing with the critical raw materials, because it was well before the war, but we actually signed the MOU on critical minerals, but the goal was a little bit different. That we work together, we would invest, and we would have, of course, the joint benefit from such exploration. And this is actually the offer which we are proposing to all countries. I believe that, of course, India would be one of them. We want to create local value added, we want to create local jobs, we want to make sure that there is also a local value chain behind it, and that it's our joint project from which both of us would benefit.
But America has made a U-turn in terms of its policies. In such a scenario, how do you look at the strategic cooperation between America and Europe? Is America a reliable partner at all for Europe anymore?
You know, in each relationship, including in the family, and I have 3 children, so I know you have ups and downs. I think what is very important is to be able to speak openly, to speak frankly, and we see Americans as our closest allies. The administration is new, so it's a lot of new things at the table, and we are ready to do much more for our own security, for investment into the defense, and we are the biggest trading partner. So our trade volume is $1.6 trillion. We are the biggest mutual investors, and I hope that the history, the fact that we've been in very difficult situations together before, and the fact that we are allies, that it would in the end prevail in sometimes very, very tense and difficult discussions.
The other very important announcement made today was about defense cooperation between India and EU. In terms of looking and expanding towards defense partnerships and expansion of defense production, can India really help rearm Europe?
I think that this would be a very important part of our cooperation. As you both know, we have a very important space project, so does India, and I know that today there have been very good talks between the Commissioner and the Minister who are responsible for this part. We in Europe, to be, I think, very open, are low on ammunition, because we've been supplying in a dramatic volumes our Ukrainian friends, and we clearly see that to have a peace through strength, to be in a position of a good deterrence against anyone who would like to threaten Europe in the future, we have to invest much more in defense. So it's clearly that the budget for the defense in every single member state will have to go up. We are also discussing within the European Commission how can we promote these and use, let's say, European financial instruments to bring more money in that sector, and we'll be looking clearly for strategic partners, how to achieve that as quickly as possible, and India is a strategic partner of European Union, so I see it as a very important part of our eventual collaboration.
Any specific areas in the defense sector that you're looking at?
I was not part of the discussion today. I think that clearly the cooperation on the space policy was discussed, and I think here what is important is to clearly indicate that that's something what we want to do, what we want to explore, and very often, if it comes to the defense, talks are pretty confidential. So I think that was one of the reasons why I think this would be also the case in this regard.
Finally, before I let you go, because I'm being indicated you don't have much time, 22 commissioners over here in India speaks volumes. What's the message over here in terms of how important India is to the European Union at a time when we're looking at a very polarized and divided world, where India's position certainly now seems like one that has held her in good stead?
I think you're absolutely right. It's very important from the point of view of political signaling, from political optics. We are the first country outside the EU where we went as a whole college, because first and foremost we wanted to demonstrate that our relationship is really strategic. I think it was also very important follow-up to the decision taken by the Prime Minister Modi and President Ursula von der Leyen that as a new team in the European Commission that we are engaging immediately with our Indian counterparts. They want to work for 2 billion of the citizens who share the same values if it comes to democracy, if it comes to tackling some of the global challenges. And we see huge opportunities in this fragmented world to have a good partner, to have good friends, and to really look what we can do much better together, not only in trade, but in many other spheres, like, for example, youth exchanges and also youth mobility.
You began by talking about the beautiful country that India is. What was your experience riding that hydrogen-fueled bus? Because green technology is the conversation in Europe today.
I think it's very important technology, and I would say each big cities we are simply struggling with the air pollution. I know that last year we've been actually criticizing 22 of our member states that the quality of air is below agreed limits, and it's mostly because of the transportation. So of course, one thing is to have as good public transportation as possible. So it's great that you have a metro here, that you have public transportation, but at the same time, gradually you need to change your car park. I mean, more electric buses, more hydrogen buses, and also gradual change from combustion engines into the EVs and hybrids, because that contributes a lot to the air pollution. The fact is that you, as a passenger, you don't see any difference. It's a comfortable bus. There was air conditioning. It was very comfortable. But as a citizen, you would feel the difference if you would have the fleet that, you know, the air is cleaner and that, you know, the whole environment benefits from that.
Maroš Šefčovič, thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on India Today. Indeed a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Fantastic pronunciation. Thank you.